Good morning, folks. Round two, live Q&A. Not sure what happened on the first one, but actually, I don't know what's going on with this one either. Are we live? Oh, there we are. We're live. Okay. So I got a couple of questions that I didn't get to. I apologize. I wasn't able to capture all of them, but I will take a shot, see if anybody rejoins and asks their questions. So a couple that I saw before the session dropped. Again, I apologize for that. One is, do we wholesale? So the answer is no, we don't wholesale. If you know our story at all, I have created an office in Fresno called The Hub, which I'm particularly proud of. It has 7 or 8 real estate entrepreneurs in it, of which 4 of them, I believe, are wholesalers. So I have access to wholesalers. I help market for them, but no, Olivia and I do not actively wholesale. Frankly, it's too hard to find a deal. So when we find a deal, we want to close on it. We don't. So we don't wholesale. Next up, I think I got a question from Tamika about length of time to remodel. I think that was a question I saw before it went away. And so we buy a fixer-upper that we're going to hold as a rental. The timeline can vary. If it's vacant, we will likely have our team go trash it out, maybe do demo if we're going to remodel bath and kitchen. That's usually the first week. Then we are going in kind of week 2. It's usually about 3 or 4 weeks. About 3 or 4 weeks for a full probably 4 weeks for a full remodel, meaning new kitchen, new bath. If it's just paint and flooring, which it can be sometimes, that's more like a 2.5 week process. So those were my 2 questions. Sorry about that. So Troy, if the market doesn't drop, how are you finding deals when prices are this high? Well, it takes a lot of time. So we, so what did we closed on 2 here recently. They were both off-market deals. One from a real estate agent that we've networked with for years, and one was from a wholesaler. So again, they're off-market. It's just tough, man. As you know, Troy, I wrote almost over 200 offers last year and didn't get any on the MLS. It will turn. I think inventory rises. I think quality differences change, because based on, even think about one of the questions from the first session. I think it was FHFA is changing loan requirements for investment properties. So I think what we're going to see is the clean properties rise even faster. And then the fixer-uppers that don't qualify for government financing, those will be bought by us as either landlords or flippers. A deal. It's tough, especially in Fresno. It's way tough. Never been this hard. Matt, great way to spend a Saturday morning with the kids. Oh, that's very nice. That's very nice. Make sure you talk about money, spending, savings, investing. It's not taught in schools, not even in college, not even in my MBA classes. It's kind of funny. We need to do that. So what other questions do we have? I apologize for the first stream closing and not seeing them all, but I tried. What else do we got? The other thing, I think, Troy, going back to your questions, I think rents are going to go up, which will make deals easier for us as landlords. I think rents are going to be rising. I really do think we have an affordable housing crisis brewing. None are being built. The ones that are existing are either so far gone they're going to be destroyed. 2, they're being picked over by flippers. So they're creating the quality above the average or affordable. Yeah, it's going to be tough. Do you think YouTubers who are calling for a real estate crash really believe it, or just clickbait? I don't want to judge anybody's personal character, so I'm going to assume that anybody who puts out a video believes what they're saying. Yeah, that's what I'm going to say. Yeah, I don't want to question anybody's character, so I'm going to say if somebody puts out a video saying a crash is coming, that they believe it. I think that's the safest thing to say. Did you already answer? Mike, I don't remember what your question was. The internet went out for me, so I lost all the questions. So if you could ask your question again, Mike, would be great. What percent of first-time, Brian, what percent of first-time landlords are still land holding in 5 years? What are some issues that cause people to leave the business? Brian, I don't know that answer. I would just hazard a guess. That's a good question. I would guess somewhere between 50 and 70%. So that means somewhere between 30 and 50% are not landlords after 5 years. Now, why? Now, again, Brian, as I said, that's a complete guess. I have no idea. Couple of things. First off, a lot of people become landlords because they move out of their primary and it becomes a rental. So it's not kind of a strategic plan. So sometimes they realize that's not what they want to do. So they're out. Other times they fail. Really, what I've seen in most landlords that quote unquote give up is their tenant selection is bad, poor, or missing, or they didn't learn their market and they bought cheap. This is my great problem with buying in the Midwest. If you live on the coast, you have no idea. And I've seen plenty of people go broke buying cheap. If you were buying solely based on an Excel spreadsheet and somebody else's words, you're going to lose most of the time. So yeah, that's a good question, Brian. I hadn't thought of it that way. Look at Matt, Mr. Matt, the lumberjack, the lumberjack landlord. Any more news on a Victorian that has been ruled against by the federal judges in Texas and Ohio? No, I've seen both those cases. We shall see, right? It's clear now that the government overreached and went against our Fifth Amendment, which is the taking clause. And we finally have federal judges saying, no, 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 but it's not being handled at the state level. I said this way back at the beginning, that this was unconstitutional, like the US Constitution, but nobody was big enough to stand in front of it. Our legal process would take so long that the crisis would be over by the time it finished. So I fully expect it to be ruled unconstitutional, but I also don't expect any states to do anything until the summer. And by then, most of this will be over. Cross our fingers. But yeah, you got to follow that. Texas first, Ohio second. We'll see what happens next. But yeah, not being done at the state level just yet. Troy, I talked to some agents in Sarasota, and they are predicting a large drop coming up. So wondering what's going on. Sarasota, I'm guessing that's Florida. Yeah, I don't know. Prices only drop for one of three reasons, folks. Large supply of homes come on out of nowhere. Think triple, quadruple, quintuple, whatever. I don't see that coming, but maybe in Sarasota it is. Maybe there's enough foreclosures or whatever coming. But Florida, Troy, last time Florida took over 800 days to foreclose because it's it is a judicial state. So I don't know what they see. That's what I'd ask them. Is it supply coming? Is demand shrinking? I don't think so. I think Florida's on fire. And I think it will continue to be on fire. Or a dramatic rise in rates. That's possible. If we jump from 3.5 to 6, that could be a problem. So I don't know. Troy, I'd ask them. It's got to be one of those three things. And again, agents are wrong all the time. For that matter, I'm wrong all the time. Just ask Olivia. So I don't know. I just don't see it. I don't know Sarasota at all. So maybe Sarasota has that unique thing where all the employers left, and maybe it's a fracking city and there's no more fracking. I don't know. I'm not sure why Sarasota would fall. Better home rental. Hi. Bloomberg and Larry Summers warn of inflation like the 60s are real possibilities. So what do we recall happening in school in the 60s and 70s? What do you recall happening in school in the 60s and 70s? I'm not sure what happened in the schools in the 60s and 70s. I was born in 72, so I don't know anything about the 60s, unfortunately. Yeah, I think inflation's a real threat. This is my thoughts on inflation. So there's some folks, the Fed Treasury, that think inflation will spike to like 3.5, 3.8 short term because of all the supply chain disruptions, and then fall next year. I think that's wishful thinking at best, or arrogant. I don't think they're right. Then we have the people calling for 15% inflation. That would be destructive, and that would bankrupt the US because we can't afford to pay that on our debt. So I don't see that happening either. I think inflation is going to run 5 to 6% by the second half of this year and not fall until the second half of next year. I think inflation is a big threat. That's why I keep telling you to get fixed rate debt today. Even if your fixed rate debt is 3.5, so what? In the big scheme of things, did you miss the bottom? Yes. Will you still be happy in 3 years? Probably. So that's what I'm thinking. Single family homes in the 60s and 70s, I'd have to go back and look. I generally stopped looking in the 80s, but I'm guessing homes went up. That's what kind of inflation would mean, but I'm not sure. We'd have to look. Oh, good morning, Lumberjack. Look at that. He's got his fans all over. Mike, question. For the properties I manage myself, I have a tough time getting my renters to provide proof of renter's insurance. Do you recommend I get it for them, then add it to their monthly rent? You would well, so I would not recommend doing that. I understand what you're going for. Make it part of the lease, make it part of the requirement. If they don't, it's on them. You know what? The thing you could do, Mike, because I don't think a lot of tenants understand, is get them a quote. I don't think many tenants realize how cheap renter's insurance is. I think I would get them a quote and then make them sign that they are going to get it or not get it. Maybe get a referral to an agent to help them. I don't, it just feels, you have to check with an attorney. You first have to change your lease for sure. You're adding something that's not rent. So there could be some rules around that. I'm not sure what state you're in. But yeah, I mean, I understand your intention. I think what I would do is go the extra mile to get a quote, because some renters insurance is like, it's like $30 a month or something, $20 a month. It's pretty cheap. I think that's what I would do. Again, remember, I don't self-manage. It is a part of my lease. We recommend it. We make it a requirement, but I don't think, not all my tenants get it. I would hope more than half do, but the other half don't. Corey, I've been investing in Nashville since 14. Man, you've been crushing it in Nashville. You've seen some wild appreciation. Congrats. Say I have only met a couple of agents that know the local market. Would you say this is normal across all markets? Yeah. I think real estate agents, having worked with hundreds of them, probably approaching 1,000, really boil down into two buckets. In my experience, more than 90% of real estate agents are the open house owner occupants going to do 3 or 4 transactions a year. Then there are the agents who focus on investors. They're very different. They're not the open houses. They're the ones running spreadsheets in what I call yield. And they're asking you questions like, what do you want to buy? What are you looking for? It's a very different conversation. Again, it's 1 in 20 roughly, so 5%. If you talk to an agent that is dealing with investors as their book of business, it's a very different conversation. But yeah, that means 95% of agents are open houses doing 3 transactions a year. It's a different ballgame. I don't think that's a Nashville only thing. I think that's nationally and probably worldwide, probably. John Doe, should I sell my primary residence and get a lot of fiat money or rent it out and maybe get 5% cap? I don't know. There's too many questions there, John. What is your gain going to be? Is it tax free? What would you do with the money? Fiat money is not a problem. It's just, what are you going to do with it? Can you get a bigger than 5% return? What's your long-term plan? Is it your only investment? Is your net worth tied to this house? There's lots of questions that I don't have any information about. That's hard to say. Yeah, not enough data for me to answer that, unfortunately. Jake, thanks for all you do. Keep it up. Informed, educated. I appreciate it. You're welcome. Corbin, Sarasota is strong market poised for more growth. Realtors are not economic experts. I agree with that. I manage my own properties in California, in Idaho, in Utah, and Montana. Wow. Oh no, okay. You manage your own there, okay, and then your property manager's there. Yeah, Mike. Something tells me there's kind of state laws about what you can add and can't add to rent. So that's what I would check. In California, you've on my channel, I have my landlord attorney. You could probably reach out to him and just see. I just don't want to talk about something I don't do because it might be against the local law, and I don't want to misguide anyone. I understand your intention, but I would check to see if it's legal in different states. I bet you it's down to the state level, like you have here. Maybe in Utah it's okay, but Montana it's not. It wouldn't shock me if California and Idaho were different as well. So I would check that. If it's legal, it's a great idea. I'm just not sure it's legal. I'm just not sure. Justin, I'm in NorCal, Redding, yep, and prices have exploded due to people leaving the Bay Area, yep, and buying up here, yep. This has made numbers hard to cash flow. Well, Justin, you are, that's lots of California is feeling that. What I would tell you is I've been doing this 20 years and markets change. The market we've been in since the summer of 2020 till probably the summer of 2021 is the hardest market to buy cash flow rentals in California, and probably most of the country, but I only know one market. If you want to invest in your backyard, keep at it. I think I've said it here. Maybe it was on the first video. I wrote 250 offers last year on MLS deals. You just keep trying. The other option is to go somewhere else. I'm not a huge fan of that, but it's an option. Not one that I would do, but it's an option. Just keep at it. It'll change. It'll come back. Rents could go up, match pricing. People could suddenly realize they don't want to commute 3 hours and go back. It's a game. Okay. John Doe, I think your question was sell, right? Yeah, okay. Yeah, so John, again, I don't know if you're building something else for you to live in, if you're building a rental, everything debt-free, that's cool. That's awesome. Yeah. Yeah, so Octavio reacts. I currently have 4 rentals that bring in $1,200 a month cash flow. My monthly expenses are $800. I want to pursue my own personal endeavors. So again, I'm just going to repeat what you have there. So if your monthly expenses are $800, first off, congrats. That's the lowest I've ever heard of. It's hard to live on $800. That's rent, car, food, insurance. Are you sure your expenses are $800? Really? $800? If they are, you've got $1,200 coming in. I would probably, again, these are your numbers, not mine. I think you can legitimately quit if you double your expenses. So you're almost there. If you get to $1,600 a month cash and your living expenses are truly 800, somewhere between 1,600 and 2,000 bucks a month cash flow, you're probably okay. You have to have an emergency reserve and all of that other stuff, and you can't inflate your lifestyle, but you're pretty close. I can't believe your expenses are 800, but if that's your number, that's your number. Yeah. I think if you got to 16 or 8 or 2,000, you could quit. Again, assuming your math is correct at 800. My expenses were never 800, even as a 16-year-old. They were never 800. I guess I lived nicely. I don't know. How would you go about finding an agent that works with investors? Same old stuff, man. Network, ask questions, ask for referrals, kiss a lot of frogs. You could go to the MLS and look at what agents are listing the most duplexes and fourplexes. If you find an agent that got one fourplex, probably not an investor friendly, but if they have 4, probably investor friendly, right? So that's probably what I would do, is go find out what agents has the most duplexes, triplexes, and quads, because those are generally investor related. Hey, Kenny, flipping sell versus flipping hold. It depends how I like holding. I like flip and hold, right? You flip the financing, you hold long term. I think it's very much like 04, 05, 06, at least in Fresno, which means we could have 20 to 30% appreciation in the next 2 years. So I like holding. And again, I only hold things that rise in cash flow. So even if the market doesn't go up, I'm still okay. But as I've said, I think in this video, I'm making a bet that affordable single family rentals go up. And that's where I'm going. Yep. Christina Ramirez. Hi, Michael. Is there a magic number you recommend to have set aside to get started investing in Fresno? I think there's really 2 numbers that you need to have. First is the down payment, which in Fresno, depending on what kind of property you're going after, probably is 20 to 40 grand today. And then I would have, if you only have one, I'd probably have an emergency fund for 5,000 set aside. Those are kind of rough numbers without knowing what you're buying, right? If you had a fourplex, you probably want more set aside. You probably need a larger down. But those are what I'm thinking, Christina. Do I invest in the stock market or only real estate? No, I invested in the stock market in 2000, turned 7 grand into 197, which ultimately fell to 40 grand, and I've not been back. I bought a little bit of stock in the Great Recession when it crashed, but I didn't hold it very long. But no, I am not a stock guy. Don't listen to any of my stock investments. Not me. Yes, single, no kids, paid off car, paid off primary residence. Dude, crushing it. $800 a month, man. You're probably 2 units away from being done, man. That's congratulations. Yeah, $800. If you can live on 800, you are so close to financial freedom. It's not even funny. So close. All right. I think that's all the questions I got to them. Sorry about the hiccup again. Nothing I could do. Yeah. Any more questions? All right. We're going to shut this down. And if you're one of my students, I'll see you in about 14 minutes in our Facebook group. Oh, we got one more question. John, you're the last question. My house can be rented as a single family and try to get maybe 3 grand, or rent top and bottom separately, 500. For me, John, the thing that's not talked about a lot is turnover. When you're kind of house hacking or sharing, you maximize rent, but you also increase damage. I don't generally like that. I think you win short term, but lose long term with that strategy. I don't know your house setup. Maybe it's an easy fix. I don't know. But generally speaking, maximizing rent increases damage, and long term you lose. That's what I'm thinking. All right. All right, buddy. Take care, everyone. Have a wonderful day. Remember, check out those videos from Nathan and Joanna and Romel from yesterday. Appreciate it. Take care. Bye.